So I'm going to make another video where I'm just complaining about some guy who actually looks kind of smart. I think if you look at his look, you might think that because he looks kind of like serious, like he looks like, I don't know, a news reporter or something, you kind of would take his beliefs seriously. But yeah, the idea that these stories are true are just crazy. But anyway, let's just
why, biblically, when I say the strong weight of scholarship, I understand the other views. I've debated with other people on those views. The strong weight of scholarship rests upon the rapture taking place before the tribulation. Let me give you reason number one.
So things like that, it's like talking about scholarships, talking about he's done research, he's done this, he's done that, and then he starts talking about the rapture. The only evidence of the rapture is something being called caught up. Now, a lot of people can be caught up in being busy. I'm caught up right now. Sorry, I'm on the phone. I'm cooking right now. I'm a bit caught up. The number of people that have actually used the phrase, sorry, I'm caught up, I can't, when they pick up the phone, sorry, I'm a bit caught up right now, I can't talk to you. They're not talking about the rapture. So any evidence that he thinks he has on that is just crazy.
Reason number one is Jesus himself told us that it's taking place before the tribulation.
Jesus himself did not tell anyone anything. It's a book that was supposed to be his word, but you don't actually know if it really was his word. And yeah, it's just a book written 300 years after he left. So it's just like a rumor told by. He didn't say anything. It's a rumor spread, Chinese whisper kind of rumor.
People say, where in the world did he say that? If you have a Bible, you can open with me to Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. And let me just give a preference.
So you just said, if people say that Jesus didn't say that, you go to Revelation and it says. So it's just like, well, Jesus didn't write Revelation. Revelation isn't even about Jesus. They talk about some figure on a horse and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's talking about Jesus. But yeah, if you think saying that Jesus said this himself and then saying, oh, because it says it in Revelation, it's like, well, how do you know that Revelation has anything to do with Jesus?
People might be turning in their Bible. The book of Revelation actually gives its own outline. It's the only book in the Bible that gives us an outline as to what is going to happen. And the author, John...
it's a book that's most fantasistic.
Wrote things down specifically according to the order of event. Write down the things which you've seen, the things which are, the things will be.
John just wrote down a bunch of visions that he had, just like any other person. There's loads of people online that are like, oh, I had this dream, and oh, I had this dream, and oh, there was these bunch of people, and there was a storm, and they thought they would be okay, and then it turned out that the ones in Rainmax actually died, but they thought they were okay, and that's obviously proof that if people who think that they're okay when they don't have Jesus, that they're not okay because they don't have Jesus, when really it's just like, maybe people that wearing the raincoats actually are the people that think that they're safe because they have Jesus, when really they're not safe. Anyone could have dreams, anyone could have visions. I'm not too sure exactly why the stories were chosen, but I'm pretty sure there's a whole long list of prophetic stories that could have been included in the Bible, and the ones that are in there are just the ones that are in there because that's the ones that got written, but that's doesn't mean that much.
In verse 19, but in Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10, the Bible says, because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world to test those who belong to the world.
So that's actually about me. It's a trick. It says that, I'm going to keep you from trial. I'm not going to let you do that. But it's a catch because it's actually just talking about one person, me. I'm the one who's setting up this test, so there's no point of me going through the test. In fact, quite a lot of people might be held from this trial because there's going to be quite a lot of people involved in setting up this test. I mean, I don't really know how many people. I don't even know if the singers know about this test that's coming. I don't know which singer knows about me and which singers don't. I mean, there's a small chance that it could just be like a bunch, maybe like 100 rich people who are all keeping it a secret. pretty sure Madonna knows and Beyonce and stuff, but I don't even know that. I don't know who knows, but I know the people who know about the test, they're going to be the ones that are held back or kept from the trial because they know the test. They're not going to want. The test is where people are allowed to, are told that I'm the real sacrifice and that I have to go through shit for their benefit, for them to gain blessings from God or whatever. And then you'll see who. But if you don't know what the test is, then how can you be kept from the test? You don't know what the test is. Do you know what the test is? That's what I'd love to have a meeting with even this guy. I think I'd need to have like 15 minutes where I actually like listen to what these people have been saying. So that way when I go in, 15 minutes where I just look at what they're doing so I get an idea of who I'm going to next talk to. And then a 15 or 10 minute conversation with these people. But I would love to ask them this question, why do you think you're being held back from the test if you yourself don't even know what the test is? I mean, how are you going to know if you're being held back from it if you are unaware of what the test is?
Take one step. In Revelation 1, 2, and 3, the church is mentioned in the Greek ecclesia 19 times. Revelation 1, 2, 3. It is...
I am the church, but I'm being called a church because it's a deception. God wanted people to think that they are the church. Why? Because God does not want to save you or Christians or people, but I guess my higher self does want to save me. I mean, if she really wanted to save me, she wouldn't have put me through the life that I've led through. So I definitely have not been saved. But she was giving me false hope for the last 11 years. False hope that actually just caused me more suffering because I kept being like, oh, look, I'm going to be saved from trial. This means that the tribulation isn't going to be 11 years. And that wasn't the truth. So this Bible is full of lies, but whatever. I didn't make any covenant. This isn't a covenant between me and you. This is a covenant this was a book written by people that had no clue what they were talking about. They were just trying to make up shit.
Never mentioned again after Revelation chapter 3 and verse 22 until the closing of the book. The church...
Yeah, well, the church turns into Babylon and the woman on the stars. The church turns into a woman after that point.
Is not mentioned from chapter 4 all the way through chapter 20.
Not true.
And the tribulation begins in chapter 6 and goes through chapter 19. If the church were going through the tribulation, why did God remain silent? He didn't give the church one...
But you don't know what the church is. You don't know the church actually just represents a woman. You're preaching something about something you know nothing about.
Word of advice. He didn't give us counsel. He didn't tell us how to prepare. He didn't tell us how to sustain. He didn't give us one word of divine counsel. If the church, which is his holy bride, is going through the tribulation, how do you theologically defend that it's not mentioned one single time? And I think
there's no way of helping. There's no way of guaranteeing that it wasn't going to that the church wasn't going to suffer. There's just deception that you'll be saved. But the thing about being saved is you have to be in trouble for you to be saved. That's the thing about being saved. But yes, you don't know who the church is because you think it's you.
I think the reason why is Revelation 3:10. Jesus speaking to the church said, because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will keep you from the great time of testing is the tribulation.
I think Christians are going to feel so foolish when they realize that this was actually just about one person, not them, because this has plagued their minds all the time. This is partly the reason why they have so much hope, because of the old lines that talk about me being saved, when really it's not. They think it's them, and they've been getting so excited over lines like this, and they're going to be so foolish when they learn the truth.
He didn't say, I'll keep you in it. He didn't say, I'll keep you through it. He didn't say, I'll keep you during it.
Stop repeating
He said,
yourself.
I will keep you from it. And that is literally rendered from the original Greek text.
I'll be kept
Then,
from the test. That's
another thing that is
Because I am
oftentimes
the
asked,
test.
let me just throw this in as a little...
Although people won't think that I am the bride during the test, because part of the test is to persecute me, and therefore they're going to think, this can't be you, you're not kept from it. Although technically I think the bride really is actually just the people that think that they want to marry Christ, and that, which is stupid people basically. Don't you motherfuckers know I'm crazy? That's Snow White's new song, which kind of fits, because people who think they're the bride of Christ are totally crazy. But yes, whether that's me or them, maybe there is some truth in both. The stories can be analysed in many different ways, so maybe there's truth in both. But no one's going to be saved.
No. I oftentimes, and I try not to laugh, but to me it's embarrassing revelation when somebody brings up John Darby. And sadly, there are a lot of intelligent people with degrees that when you debate this with them, they run to this thought process that the John Darby revelation of the rapture didn't take place until 1826. And it's
what is this? Explain that. What's the John Darby revelation?
John Darby is an individual that was credited with most of these other views in debates, almost without exceptions. Sooner or later, somebody brings that up.
It would have come at some point.
You do realize,
if that guy hadn't have done it, someone else would have done.
Jesus said concerning this wrath, it'll be like it was in the days of Lot. Then in another passage, he said, it'll be like it was in the days of Noah. Now, in Bible college, we have a course called typology. The Old Testament is filled with types, shadows, and foretelling events that are fulfilled in the New Testament. Jesus said that this end-time event and the tribulation, the judgment of God, is going to be as it was in the days of Lot. Do you know that every single Old Testament judgment
Why do they keep repeating
supports God's wrath being poured out on the ungodly and the righteous being rescued? It's a type of receiving forgiveness. It's a type of rescue.
He goes on to talk the story about the story of Lot. The story of Lot was a guy who had his house burned down, his city burned down, all his friends burnt down, lost absolutely everything, including his wife, and then he runs off into a mountain and then has nothing, and then was supposedly raped by his 2 younger daughters, which doesn't make any sense because women don't usually rape men, so that's obviously a lie. But yeah, if the tribulation is like that, a man, but they see it from their own perspective. They see it as a man being saved from bad people. But it's just like, no, he wasn't saved from bad people. He was lost from people that were all similar to him. He says they're all bad, but he was bad too, because he's a freaking he ended up having kids with his own children and living in a cave, having nothing, and therefore, if you're going to try and use that as evidence that Christians are going to be raptured out of earth and go and live somewhere better. It's like, well, did Lot go and live somewhere better? No, he went to go and live in a cave whilst his house burnt down, whilst his village burnt down, whilst all the shops that he used to go to, all the luxuries that he would have had, to be able to go to a shop and buy something, that all went. And I'm hoping that doesn't all go, because we don't want to lose shops and stuff. But there are some really ugly shops that probably need to go. But I don't know, he's trying to take this story and prove that this is evidence that Christians are going to go be raptured into heaven, into paradise. And yet, was that what happened to Lot? Did he get taken out of his city and go into paradise? No, he went out into a cave where he ended up having sex with his kids, and then having... What are you going to feed your babies, or how are you going to dress them if you don't have any villages or shops to go to? He's a man who lost everything. And then in the days of Noah as well, and people are so impressed. Wow, there was all these evil people, and that God came, and he tells the story in somewhere in this conversation about. I was just listening to it, just thinking, why are you just understanding it from one perspective? Noah had nothing when the flood waters went. He had nothing. He'd lost his house. He'd lost his village. He'd lost his friends. He had his family, this small number of people. But this guy was talking about the righteous being saved, because the righteous are on the boat and they're rising up. But the boat's full of animals. Are they really righteous? Are the animals really any better than the humans that God is supposedly killing to do this? No, it's a story of some people who lose everything. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but if you're fantasizing about how amazing the rapture is whilst saying it's going to be like the days of Lot and the days of Noah, I mean, there's what good is there in those stories? They're terrible stories about people that lose everything and gain nothing, and if they want to, have to build a house. I mean, this guy has a nice house. I don't know what that picture is, but he's obviously got a house. I mean, would he like to lose his house only to have to live in a cave for a very long time and then have to rebuild his own house and stuff? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of morons in the world, and people like this are the morons, but they put themselves in nice suits and they don't look like morons.
They entered into the ark, and God shut the door, which is a type of God having final say in the chronology of eschatology. As the wrath of God was poured out with the waters from on high and the waters that broke from underneath, what happened to the righteous? They were lifted above.
When you say the righteous, you mean six people who, I don't know, I can't say anything about them because it doesn't really say much about them, but 6 people happy to leave all their friends and family behind, or all their aunts, relatives, uncles, maybe they have grandparents, have sisters and stuff like this. There are people who are willing to basically murder everyone in their village, everyone they've ever known, the teachers that taught them in school and stuff. Are they really righteous? Oh, and the animals that are animals and just rape and do all sorts of stuff. So yeah, this is an example of the righteous ones leaving and the door shutting. This is God's judgment on the world. It's a door shutting. How do you know that means God's judgment on the world? You're just analysing things the way you want to analyse them.
Judgment, that the water was coming down and coming up. The righteous, when the wrath came down, Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah. Then
he's trying to say that as the water rised, so did the boat, and that is that is an example of humans going into heaven. You're on a boat with a bunch of raping animals that kill their own. Some of them eat their own children, and some animals gang up. Well, most animals are racist. Almost all animals are racist, basically. I'm stronger than you, I'm better than you, I'm going to kill you. I mean, you're in an ark full of people that want to kill you. So it's basically, it's not the righteous.
And he said, as it was in the days of Lot. What happened with Lot? Lot, like a believer, lived in a wicked world, a wicked community, a perverse community. The angel of the Lord came before the wrath of God was poured out. The angel, a type of the gospel, to rescue the righteous. What did the angel?
To rescue the man who's about to rape his son, and then to put him into a cave for a long time, where he has absolutely nothing, and not even a wife, and the kids as well. They've lost their mother and friends and all the people they met at school. And it's just, these people are just so freaking mad, and they have no clue how mad they are.
Angel do. He took Lot, his wife, and his family up the mountain, and so is this Sodom and Gomorrah is being judged with the fire of God, the wrath of God being poured out upon them.
Whilst lots of people were burning alive, all you think about is them walking up a mountain and being saved, and this somehow proves that you are going to be one of those ones that gets saved by walking or flying off into another world. Where people who believe in the rapture are funny. It's funny how mad they are, that they could try and read into absolutely any kind of evidence that they are going to be raptured off into a better place, even though the story says that he lived in a freaking cave.
Them, the righteous were going up the mountain. As wrath was coming down, the righteous were going up. Lot's wife turns around and looks back at the world. She's a type of the backslidden church with
She's the type, the backsliding church, because she turned around and watched her and wanted to know what was happening to her town and her village. Because she did that, we know that she's the backsliding church that is unfaithful. And then he goes on to say about economics.
1 foot in modern culture and politics and 1 foot in the Bible, not knowing where to land for fear of.
You really have added something into that story. She turned back and she got turned into a pillar of salt. So now let's just find as many things we can to insult her and justify God for allowing a woman to be turned into a pillar of salt because she looked back at the city and town that she used to live in and watch it burn. She probably wanted to go back and help people. But yes, let's just try and insult her in any way we can, even though you know nothing about her, and say she's got 1 foot in the economic or in the whatever you just said.
Of offending anybody or being so. But the righteous were taken up. What happened even with the outpouring of God's wrath upon the firstborn? The blood was put over the doorposts, and the side of the post is a type of Christ, and all who were in the house. When judgment came, every righteous person was saved.
And of course, to be righteous, you don't actually need to do anything righteous. No, you just need to kill a lamb and be like, here's the blood all over my door, and I don't give a shit about this because I don't give a shit about that lamb. Yes, because I killed something and I didn't care, and I'm just going to be so sick as to put blood all over my door and be like, oh, I'm righteous now. Literally, if you think that putting blood on your door, on a door frame, makes you righteous, then you are fucking freaky. You must be weird.
Enoch, before Enoch.
If a satanic person put blood on their door frames, I'm pretty sure you'd be like, oh, they worship the devil. So how come if it's something in the Bible, then that you were told that Moses told to do, you know, I didn't agree with slavery, but if people are bad, then I do agree with slavery. And I just can see Moses being the type of person, like, I don't think he was a real person, but if there was this character, you know, I can just see him being, you know, oh, I'm righteous, oh, I'm perfect, look, I've put blood on my door, I'm better than everyone else, and I don't care if anyone else, if the people that are owning the houses, you know, die and stuff. You know, it's just like being, I'm renting a property and my owner and the person who owns the property wants rent from me, and I feel like a slave because, you know, it's like saying that, but then saying I can't wait till that the owner of my property dies so that I no longer have to pay that person money, and then calling yourself righteous just because you think you're righteous, just because of whatever random belief you have. You know, being I'm righteous because I believe I'm righteous, and then or I believe in the right God even though there's no evidence of it, or I talk to a talking bush, I talked to a bush and the bush talked back because I have the right God, and then using that as evidence that you are righteous, and then saying that, oh look, I parted the sea, isn't this amazing? And everyone focuses on, wow, did God really part the sea? And then you have all these debates about people where people are saying, you know, there's evidence to say that the sea was parted. No, there isn't. No, there isn't evidence that the sea was parted. And then it's like, so why would God part the sea just to basically trap Moses in the desert where there's nothing, and they have to live off manna, which is not actually bread. Manna is like the seeds of bread or something. So to go live off seeds and water that comes out of the rocks. Yes, well done, God. You did an amazing thing by parting the sea, and now they're just trapped on a desert island eating seeds and rock. I mean, that's like me saying you shouldn't eat food, you just live off Kit Kats. Just live off Kit Kats and dig the ground for like a puddle that comes up, you know. Live off puddled water and Kit Kats. That's what it's like it's saying, basically.
It was translated. We know that the flood was right after the death of Methuselah. Everybody knows Methuselah that's a student of the Bible. His name means from the original, when he dies, judgment will come. That's what Methuselah means. And he was named by a prophet. When he dies, judgment will come. Did you know that
Or maybe that's talking about Jesus. When Jesus dies, the judgment will come because people will be like, shit, why have I been worshipping Jesus all my life when there's no evidence to back up the fact that he was even a real person?
Methuselah died, most scholars believe somewhere around 7 days before the flood was poured out,
Even
and so his name given by a
a
prophet
flood that can't actually be proven that it ever happened.
that was fulfilled. They were allowed 7 days in the law back then to mourn the grief and to express their love and respect for the departed and for the elders. The death of Methuselah, they were given 7 days to respect him, to bury him, to honor him, and the wrath of God by the fulfillment of his name. The wrath came down, but the righteous were saved. And I can go every single
righteous.
Bible example where the wrath of God was poured out. The righteous were always from it. The Bible.
How can you say that Noah's Ark was a bunch of full of the righteous when it was full of lions and elephants? I mean, do you think lions are all righteous? I mean, they kill. Have you ever seen a lion eat something? I mean, they're far worse than humans, and a lot of animals would abandon their babies or rape is what they all do. You know, how can you say that's all righteous? If humans acted like animals, you would say that they're anything but righteous.
Bible describes the bride of Christ, which is you and I in the holy church, as spotless, without wrinkle, pure, no blemish. If the church were going through the tribulation.
So anyone that believes that the bride is spotless, wrinkle, I don't know what the spotless means. I mean, anyone who thinks that the bride is pure, but also thinks that they are the bride, it's like they're saying that I am pure, I am perfect because I am the bride and the bride is perfect and this is what I am. So they're like Moses. They think that they're better than everyone else because they have the right God. And stuff like this, and you know, I am the bride, but I'm not saying that I'm definitely not spotless. I put some foundation on it. I had 2 now. This morning I was like, oh no, I've got 2. But yeah, I'm definitely not spotless. I'd have to be stupid to think that I was spotless, or blind. But yeah, I'm definitely not perfect. But I like not being perfect because it means that I can be the devil and do whatever I want.
We wouldn't be white and pure and without blemish.
But you are white and pure and stuff. I mean, that's also racist to say that. Why are you saying that only white people can be the bride of Christ or something? White and pure and blemished, unblemished. Are you unblemished? Are you really unblemished? I'd love to ask these questions. I would love to have a conversation with these people and then actually say, so do you think you're unblemished? Do you think you're perfect? Are you calling yourself the bride of Christ because you think this? Oh no, it's not me, it's the Bible. The Bible says this. But yeah, but you're choosing to believe something that's clearly a lie. If you think that the Bible is always right, then it means that you think that this is always right. Now, if you actually looked at it from a smart perspective, you'll be like, well, I'm not. If I'm the bride of Christ, I'm not perfect. I do have spots on me. I don't know if he actually does have spots, but he must have moles or something somewhere on his body. It's just... They just believe whatever they want, and they want to try and big up their own ego by proving that the Bible's right because they're spotless and they're unblemished because the Bible says so. Or maybe the Bible's lying. Maybe the Bible's not the truth.
Perfect. We would be beheaded. We would be bruised, beaten, bloody, etc. Without Christ, which is you and I in the holy church, as spotless, without wrinkle, pure, no blemish. If the church were going through the tribulation, we wouldn't be white and pure and without blemish and perfect. We would be beheaded. We would be bruised, beaten, bloody, etc. Without going into a study on that, and I have studies on that on our channel, on our podcast channel, etc.
Or maybe this whole thing is a bunch of shit. So if we went through the tribulation, we're going to be bruised and battered, and we're not going to be perfect. We're going to... What? But everyone else can go through this. It's just like Moses. Yeah, all the people that own the houses, all the people that are building or making the village, that own the village. I don't know how he's ended up being a servant or a slave in the Egypt culture, but maybe he was living in a village nearby, and obviously maybe the house burnt, or maybe they burnt the houses down but they've come to a village where there's a lot nicer housing. He didn't build the houses, and now they're forcing him to work. Slavery was bad, but at the same time they needed the workers, and they took workers. They took people from villages that didn't have the resources and all the builds that they did, and then they used the fact that they owned these houses as evidence that these other people who are living in these houses need to work. But they got to live in better houses. It's not nice living in a horrible shack that's just made of cut up wood and stuff. So they it's bad slavery, but if you're taking people that don't have much and giving them more opportunities, they'll learn more things. They'll learn how to live in a city. They'll learn how to you can learn a lot being a slave. But yeah, so obviously Moses thought he was better than that. He thought he was perfect. He thought he was spotless and blemished, and that he's not going to go through any tribulation or trial because then he'll be bruised. Then he'll be beheaded. How can you be a perfect, spotless beheaded and a spotless bride when you're beheaded?
If you want to get into depth on that to the listener, but you need to understand that there's not one single type in the Old Testament that doesn't match the fulfillment of Christ redeeming the church. And he said, you're not going to go through it. I will keep you from it. And the way to know that
that's talking about me.
It's from that. In Revelation 3:22, the last mention of the church in Revelation 4:1, a type of the rapture.
Okay, this is 30 minutes long, so I'm going to stop the video.